Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Adam Jackson, co-founder and CEO of Braintrust, Erika Dietrich, Vice President, Global Fraud Protection Risk Services at ACI Worldwide, as well as Alexander Sukharevsky, Senior Partner and Global Leader of QuantumBlack, AI by McKinsey. They join us to discuss the most promising applications for AI in the enterprise and what regulatory pressures enterprises should anticipate for. It's great to have all of you with us, and let's go around the horn here, get some context in terms of where you sit within the AI ecosystem. Adam, tell us about Braintrust.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Jill, thanks for having me back. Braintrust is a global talent network that specializes in enterprise-grade tech talent. So it has about 750,000 professionals that are connected with around 2,000 or so clients. And it's mostly big companies. So Bank of America and Google and even McKinsey, one of our other panelists here, looking for tech talent. So a quarter of all the jobs on Braintrust right now are actually AI related. So we're sort of like the arms dealer in this AI race.
All right. And Erika, tell us about ACI Worldwide and the work that your group is doing there.
ACI is a world leader in real-time payments. We deliver mission-critical real-time payment software and solutions and fraud decision analytics. We enable corporations to really manage their digital payment experience end-to-end, and that includes billers, banks, and merchants globally. From an AI perspective, we deploy it in a number of different ways for payment optimization, fraud strategy, decision, and precision, as well as operational efficiencies and savings. Thank you for having me.
And finally, Alexander, QuantumBlack, AI by McKinsey.
Hey, Jill, thanks for having me today. QuantumBlack is an AI arm of McKinsey. We got today 5,000 people in more than 50 countries implementing AI to unlock impact with our clients. We're on 5 R&D AI labs between London, New York, São Paulo, Gurgaon, and Tel Aviv, as well as got more than 2,000 partners in our ecosystem, be it the hyperscaler or Stanford Human and Artificial Intelligence Institute, but also top 20 generative AI players. We got into this field 7 years ago, well before it was called Gen AI. Happy to be here today.
All right, and we're happy to have you. What do you view as the most promising applications for AI in the enterprise? It seems as if every industry, every vertical, every subsector has their hands in AI in one form or the other.
Right. And I think we're living in a very exciting time, and at least this is the first time in 17 years that I see a shift of platforms, and AI is clearly one part of it. And what's happening is, although it's very early days, because if you think about it, only in summer, 10 million software engineers got access to these tools. So we are only really second quarter into industrial deployment. But 2 things are real. Number one, it really allows to do to creativity what internet did to distribution of physical goods, meaning decreasing costs by 100,000 times and clearly improving speed. And number 2, we could interact with technology all of a sudden in human language. So this notion of significant cost curve shift and ability to interact human language allows to create completely new reality and new businesses. At the same time, we got all traditional AI applications that, based on my experience, 75% are going to go around marketing and sales, for new product development, software development, and service operations such as customer care, where the efficiency and operation potential will be unlocked with AI. So these are very exciting time, both on efficiency, but also on the business reinvention.
Right. And Adam, I'm curious to get your perspective, because as you mentioned before, you're kind of the arms dealer for the talent within the space. Where are you seeing the most demand, and how does that translate into the most, promising areas of AI?
Sure. Yeah, I think, adding to what Alexander was saying, the ability to have a natural language conversation with these tools now allows non-technical folks in the organization to actually become more productive, right? So we saw Copilot come in a year or 2 ago, made programmers more efficient. Programmers aren't going away anytime soon, right? But software development, but now you can have a product manager write a spec with the help of a Gemini or a ChatGPT, and the spec's going to get built faster and less mistakes. And marketing operations, think about everything that goes, all the man hours that go into planning a marketing campaign and figuring out ROI and spend and analyzing data. Instead of having to, like, we're seeing big clients now, the creatives are actually able to go in and query data, like very large databases, with simple English. They don't have to learn SQL anymore, right? We're bypassing. So it's all about efficiency, right? I don't think it's necessarily going to take that many jobs right now, but there are a lot of parts of enterprises that underwent layoffs in the last year. And then, so rehiring those positions may not happen as quickly or ever, right? So we're seeing our clients sort of figure out how to use this new Gen AI to make their existing folks almost like have an Iron Man suit.
Right. Well, Erika, to Adam's point, it seems as if AI is really there to improve operational efficiency. And you have 2 decades of payment and fraud experience. I mean, it seems like AI would be a natural fit within your space.
Yes, absolutely. AI has enabled us to digest data from multiple data sources, and how payments are moving so quickly and fast. Using this information and labeling our models in real time, and training them real time, and to learn real time and predict and enhance how we detect anomalies, not only anomalies that are maybe fraudulent, but anomalies where there might be some instances of instability in various payment platforms, and how we can automatically route transactions to alternative platforms to ensure that we have full uptime and full redundancy without any hiccups or anything. We're really using it not only, again, from a decision precision optimal way, but really efficiency in delivering second to none really performant applications and payments globally.
Alexander, when you're advising clients in terms of how they should be investing in AI and what areas they should be investing in, you don't want to bring AI applications on for the sake of doing it to satisfy mandates, right? You want to find a problem, you need to solve it, and you want to invest in it wisely. So how are you advising clients in terms of where to allocate that capital?
There is one very important number to keep in mind, and this number is 11%. So when we think about 18 months ago, roughly, then AI exploded. Unfortunately, over the last few years, only 11% of use cases ever made it into production. So if you think about it, it's really 1 to 10 became real value unlock. And the reason it didn't happen, not because of lack of trial, but simply statistically, you need to get your data right and reliable. You need to change your architecture to allow the data to flow. To Adam's point, you need to have amazing technical capability, but also teach rest of the organization understand the language of AI and being able to trust AI. And then you need to completely rewire the full system while stepping back and, as I said before, reinventing the business. So the likelihood of doing all these things simultaneously leads to this 11%. And therefore, I think it's less relevant whether you pick the next shiny use case, but whether you're able to create a chassis, a platform to scale AI within the organization. And that's where we focused on by, on the one hand, allowing human stack to flourish and upskilling human beings. On the other hand, providing technology solutions to deploy models at scale. So the main point is really the scalability when you think about deploying AI within the enterprise.
Right. And of course, Adam, everyone's competing for the same talent. Every industry is looking for these folks with that skill set.
Yeah. So what we've been telling our talent base, because we're Braintrust is sort of on the leading edge of this. A lot of companies will turn to talent on the network for, just like they turn to McKinsey, and a lot of times we're partnering with firms like McKinsey to figure out where should we deploy this first? How do we make sure that 11% can become a higher number in the future? And so what we've been telling talent, especially younger people coming out of college, is just focus on this. And with 6 to 12 to 18 months of training, you don't have to go to college for this. Everything's open source. You can learn how to do any of this stuff really for free. Focus on these skills and you'll have work forever. And the work pays much better as well compared to standard line engineers.
Right. Well, it kind of solves the problem of, that fear that's out there that AI is going to take away everyone's job, right? It's kind of like the way we pivoted with the internet. It sounds as if this is the next iteration of the next big thing. I mean, the tools are available out there. And to your point, companies are offering to train specific to, that company infrastructure and architecture, or it's available and it's out there. I feel like that kind of naturally solves that problem of AI. The robots are, they're taking the jobs away.
It's going to be choppy water though. So I've said before, and I still firmly believe that AI will create more jobs than it destroys over the longer term if you zoom out. But I think 2024 and 2025 are going to be kind of choppy waters. Some jobs will be displaced, others will be created. I think the skill sets can transfer if people want to and can pay attention to it. But think about the fields of like customer service. I mean, that role is just going away, right? Anything that's very repetitive in a relatively narrow domain. So think about, job interviewers, they're screeners, recruiters that, do phone or video screens with candidates all day long, or customer service people who are, answering the same 25 questions all day long, or paralegals that are, writing briefs based on a relatively narrow set. Think about those roles being pretty significantly disrupted by AI, but folks that will build these tools and software engineers that will make these interfaces more usable, they're still not very usable today. There's a whole new field of jobs there. So, I think it'll net out positive, but, there's going to be just some displacement.
Yeah. Erika, it sounds like we're essentially reshaping the economy.
Well, fraudsters are also using AI as well. So it's enhancing individuals to do things in a criminal tactics and way. So is it going to displace jobs? Yes, but it in my view, it's really changed the bar of how we all must embrace AI and make it usable on many different skill sets and knowledge bases. So it's definitely changing our environment without a doubt.
Well, let's talk about that more in terms of, AI being leveraged for things that are not good, right? So, and of course, you really sit in the center of the world of data, and you know how important privacy is when it comes to that. How do you anticipate regulatory pressures? How will that bear on enterprise AI adoption? And of course, would you consider privacy and sensitive data?
It's at the forefront of our decision making, which is why it's really critical for us to have models and algorithms that use classification and give a verbal explanation as to why versus just providing a score. And using data in a legal and privacy way and adhering to it is paramount. We want to ensure that we do not use information that is not in our permit. So yes, it is critical, and to be able to audit and to report on what we're doing and how we're doing it is really central and is a requirement that will be, I think, a legislation globally around the world that will continue to transform and be more rigorous for the right reasons.
Right. So, Alexander, as you're advising multinationals here, and let's take the EU as an example. There, the EU AI Act, there's at least some sort of framework around there, whereas in the US, that regulatory framework hasn't been established as of yet. So how are you advising multinationals in terms of how they're operating within a disjointed regulatory framework environment? How are they navigating that?
So I think a few thoughts here. As you're rightly pointing out, the regulation is really shaping as we speak. However, I do believe there are a few important principles, be it around data protection, be it around avoiding biasing, and be it also around accountability. Because frankly, a lot of times it's very hard to understand why the output it is, but you could monitor and you could be accountable for the output. And therefore, I think what we're advising our clients is, first of all, clearly stick to the regulation that is relevant for a country. On the other hand, I think it requires to have quite some adults in the room, because frankly, a lot of questions have a lot to do, not just with regulation, but with a lot of humanitarian or ethical questions that we should ask ourselves. What type of future would like to have for our kids? And if you step back, I think where it might end up at the end, similar to Isaac Asimov principles of robotics, something like this could be applicable for AI. What are the principles that we all as human beings are going to stick to first and foremost, And then clearly we're going to stick with the regulation in the relevant environments where we're going to operate.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Adam, that Alexander makes. You can't, the excuse that the AI model failed is not going to fly, especially I would imagine that once we do have framework in the US, and I would imagine the SEC is going to require some reporting around it, you have to be accountable at the end of the day. You can't just say the AI failed. That doesn't fly, especially when you're reporting to public shareholders.
Yeah, certainly not in the enterprise, right? American businesses and shareholders are not going to accept that. So on the regulation, this is like very new stuff, right? It's still technically unregulated, but here in New York City, actually, they just passed. It's a great article in the Journal about this a couple of weeks ago. They just passed a new rule saying any New York City-based company that uses any sort of AI decision making around recruiting, so recruiting employees, right, hiring, must publish exactly how that AI works. What are the inputs? What are the outputs on their career webpage? And so, and the article was actually saying like very few New York City companies are actually complying with this. They probably don't know about it yet. But I thought that was actually a really interesting kind of, common sense start to think about regulation. And let's see how it works in New York. And is this thing making hiring more bias or less bias? Is it leveling playing fields for people? I mean, human hiring is already pretty biased, right? So AI has got to do better, you'd think. But I thought that was a thoughtful kind of first step on the regulatory side by New York.
Yeah, you're referring to 144. In fact, we had an EEOC commissioner on a panel with us a couple of weeks ago referring to that. And he made an interesting point that the framework for not having bias in unemployment is already there. And kind of the point that I was making before, take AI out of it, you still had to adhere to it. Just because AI exists now, you still have to adhere to the laws no matter what data, your AI platform spits out. It's regulated from that perspective. So I'm just curious to see laws that are on the books, if it's gonna, you're gonna have to, have your data applied to it as it already stands, or if they're going to create new regulatory framework around it. So I think, in all three of your seats, as you're thinking about hiring, as you're thinking about data privacy, as you're thinking about advising companies, it's really interesting to see, to Alexander's point, like we're kind of going through this right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of laws on the books, right, around use of PII and privacy and security and hiring rules. And I think as folks that are advising or actually building AI systems, like just make sure, like our standard, at least when we use AI internally at Braintrust, is let's make sure it's as good as the best human, obviously following existing laws, but then let's set that benchmark higher. Like we have an AI matching system that matches human applicants, job applicants to roles at big companies. And it used to be just people in the background kind of shuffling resumes back and forth, and obviously imperfect, right? But that's how we've always done it. So we've spent the last year training an internal matching AI to do that at first as good as a regular human recruiter, then as well as the best human recruiter, and now better than any human recruiter could possibly do it, right? So it's faster, it's more fair, and it reduces friction in the hiring process. So that's sort of the framework we use when we build AI tools.
Mm-hmm. And Erika, last word for you here. When you think about how your systems are evolving, do you think we're in an AI bubble where it's so hyper-focused on what's happening in the AI space that perhaps we're not as cognizant of other areas of the business? Or do you think that, the model and the integration of what's happening with these newer systems and what's happening with legacy, that there is a clear path for that?
I think it's a hybrid approach, certainly a multi-layer approach to solely and only utilize AI. I strongly believe there will be deficiencies, which is why you have to have a multi-layered approach to anything that you're doing and ensure that it also has balance and that it's monitored by individuals, that oversight where you can change and implement different levers and act quickly, because there's going to be a need to change and look at things on more broadly perspective outside of just AI alone.
All right. And final thoughts here, Alexander?
Yeah, I don't think we are in the bubble. There is a lot of hype, and clearly there is a lot of conversation around AI. And still, as I said, 11% is 11%, but the shift of cost curves, ability to operate technology with human language, ability to create virtual assistants to human beings is real, and that's what create a lot of new platforms and applications, as we saw 17 years ago when the first cloud, social network, and smartphone appeared.
All right. Appreciate everyone's insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.
Thank you.